This episode is brought to you by Bright Cellars, a personalized monthly wine subscription. Start by taking a short, fun quiz, and the algorithm designed by 2 MIT grads will recommend the 4 best wines for your tastes based on science. You'll receive 4 bottles of wine per month, and you'll never receive the same bottle twice. Go to brightcellars.com/wine-to-5, and you'll get 50% off your first shipment.
It's not 5 o'clock, and they don't care. Welcome to Wine to 5. Entertainment, education, and everyday drinking for everyday people. Your hosts are Valerie Caruso and Stephanie Davis, 2 wine educators who don't need a clock to know when to pour that next glass.
Thank you for joining us on episode 105. Today we are celebrating 2 things, and we're going to give you a full plate of drinking facts and
fun. That sounded so sexy, by the way you did that. We've been actually sitting here pre-gaming for an hour. So, yes, fun is on the menu today, and Steph and I are so happy to share this occasion with you. So we're going to get this party started.
Yeah, I even wore my party dress today, and I put some lipstick on for y'all, some lip sense that doesn't come off on my martini.
Oh my God,
glass.
Steph. First of all, you look beautiful. I should take a picture of you because I took a shower and I should take a picture of you. Look gorgeous. I'm going to take a picture of you on Skype. There you go. Gorgeous.
That's so funny. That's so funny. I don't know if I should hold the microphone or the martini glass or both.
Well, when you see the screensaver with the zebra butts around your face,
zebra butts.
How cute is that?
Look at that!
How cute is that? So yeah, like Steph
that.
Looks gorgeous. I managed to shower, and yes, and I'm wearing tie-dye, so I look like a big old hippie. But since you just showed your glass, do you want to talk about what's in your glass first, or did you want me to talk about what's in my glass first?
I want you to talk about what's in yours because I'm going to tell everybody how they can make mine.
Okay, so what's really cool that's in my glass, because we've got a discussion subject we're going to lay on you a little bit later, who was a lover of fine Bordeaux. In fact, 2/3 of his cellar was dedicated to it, and Burgundy, but he loved his Bordeaux. So I am sipping what I just realized was the very first bottle that Steph came toting into my house back in 2014. She brought it as a house gift, and it is the 2006 Chateau Gloria from the Saint-Julien appellation in Bordeaux. This is actually one of their better vintages, believe it or not, and Steph's wedding anniversary year. Because you just celebrated 10 years last year in Italy, right?
That's right.
Yep. And according to Oz Clarke's book, Bordeaux, the wines, the vineyards, the winemakers, it is one of the most affordable and approachable houses because you can actually drink these wines younger, and yet they age really well. So as I mentioned, this is a 2006, so this wine is, 11 years old. And the vineyards are mostly Cabernet Sauvignon, with a quarter of Merlot and about 10% Cabernet Franc, a little bit of Petit Verdot bringing up the rear, about 5% each of those. They tend to use a little less than half new French oak, about 40%, and they age them for just over a year, about 14 months in that new French oak. So this one is served last night with stuffed bell peppers, but the tannins were so surprising, and the black fruit, it's still quite showy. And even the tertiary notes, and you may remember those are the notes that come from bottle age, tertiary notes. So those are like the mushroom and the spice box, tobacco, leather, and they're sharing the space, but they're not dominating this wine. But it is still, I'm not going to say youthful. It's ready to drink, but you could still probably age this for a little while. It is absolutely a stunning wine, Steph, so thank you.
Oh, good. Is that what you meant when you said the tannins were surprising you because they still have like some grip and there's some longevity in the wine to age longer?
Yeah, they're still like medium minus. They're still grippy.
I think I have a bottle or so left. That started out as a case. Oh. I had a whole case of it. And over the years, we've been drinking it and sharing it. And I think I have a few bottles. I have a whole collection of 2006 wines for opening on anniversaries. So it'll be cool to see how it continues to change for sure.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
glad you're enjoying it.
I'm enjoying it very much. John absolutely loved it. And yes, thank you so much for sharing this bottle. But I remember it's been in my wine fridge since the very first time you crossed our threshold back in 2014.
I know, it seems like that was a long time ago. So, and what a perfect way to celebrate. It feels kind of like a birthday, even though it's a podcastiversary.
It is, but it is a birthday too, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think it is the birth of our podcast.
The birth of our podcast, and also Thomas Jefferson's birthday when this is released.
That's right.
So, and he's the subject of our discussion today, by the way. So should we just get into this, or you want to talk about the cocktail first?
I can talk about the cocktail.
Yeah.
I want to announce that we have an official Wine25 cocktail now. And it's about time, right, Val? I mean, after all, the We Like Drinking guys have their own smoked whale testicle cocktail, their smoked whale testicle cocktail. And I was like, well, we need to have a Wine25 cocktail. So, of course, on our podcastiversary, that is the perfect time for that. And so here's what I want everybody to know. This is how my brain works. Okay, we should have wine in the cocktail, of course.
Yeah.
Wine25. And Val and I love to have spirits. And we both really love whiskey. So I was like, well, what if we had wine, 2 spirits, and a total of 5 ingredients, hence Wine25.
Oh, my God.
Yes. And this is no cocktail for a little weakling. This is a big, bad, sassy, boozy cocktail. So it's a stiffy, I would say. So be ready for it. And if you love whiskey and your brown spirits, I think you will totally love that. I know Val and I do. And we just had a podcast on Irish whiskey, so we'll nod to that one. But tell your bartender buddies how to make it. Here's how you do it. You do 1 ounce of Pinot Noir, 2 ounces Maker's Mark bourbon, 3/4 of an ounce Leopold Brothers Aperitivo, and 1/4 ounce simple syrup, and an orange. So there's your 5 ingredients. You stir together the bourbon, the aperitivo, and the simple syrup. And when I say stir together, this is the opposite of when you put it in a shaker and you shake it up. So this is when you put the ice in a glass and you stir all the ingredients together. And then you strain it into a chilled cocktail glass. Then you gently float the wine on top, and you just slowly pour it over the back of a spoon that's held just above the drink's surface. So then the wine just kind of layers on top. Yes, and I do have a link on description of how to do the float. It's in the show notes. And then the very end, the last little detail, which is very important, is when you do an orange twist, so taking that off the orange peel, rub it around the rim of the cocktail glass, and then use that as your garnish. Then you're going to get a lot of the essence of orange without having like orange juice in your cocktail. And one of the things that I played around with was customizing the drink a little bit by adding more or less wine. Here's what happens is if you use a lot more wine, which is great if you want it to be a little less boozy, you won't necessarily get that float that's so beautiful. And we will have pictures and things like that for you guys to see on the website. But when you have this beautiful red layer on top, and you also get to experience the drink as it changes because it's not all mixed together. So that's one cool, fun thing about this drink. And you can make it how you want it. If you like a little less bourbon, you can do it that way. But this is our recipe, and it was inspired by how many episodes Val and I have enjoyed whiskey, and also the Leopold Brothers Aperitivo is not something I'd ever had until I wanted to create something special for our show. But it is along the same lines of Campari or Aperol, sort of an in-between. Aperol being a little bit sweeter and lighter and Campari being pretty intense. The aperitivo is right about at that happy Goldilocks, medium. So kind of right in the middle, and it's great on the rocks too, but more on that later. But that's what I'm drinking.
I love how you did 1 ounce Pinot, 2 ounces of bourbon, 3/4 ounce of the aperitivo, 1/4 of an ounce of simple syrup, and the 5th ingredient, orange. Bam, because that is the most awesome way to celebrate our second podcastiversary for Wine to Five. That's, listeners, 105 straight weeks of getting behind the mics and sipping together with guests, without guests, with wine, without wine, and about all kinds of alcohol stuff. Because when we started, we had no idea how many new wine friends we would make doing this. And hasn't that been the biggest reward?
Oh, absolutely. I think that it's the people that we've met and the connections we've made.
Absolutely. We're entering our third year of growing our Wine to Five community of wine friends. So we'd like to raise our glasses to all of you, because without you, we'd be sitting here Skyping with booze and microphones like drunks mumbling into empty gin bottles. Not really, but kind of. So, cheers.
That's right.
Oh my
Cheers.
God. Clink.
Thank you, everybody.
Yes,
and
thank
happy
you.
birthday.
And happy
to us.
birthday to us this weekend. Yes. And so when you guys hear this podcast, okay, by then we'll have finished probably a couple of cocktails each, but we're also going to raise our glasses to Thomas Jefferson, because his birthday is the day this podcast come out. And he's probably the only politician worth raising a glass to, at least in the foreseeable future, because he was such an advocate and student of wine, and he's not making me reach as often for the bourbon bottle. So, like other
there's that.
So
and
there's
we should
that.
be cheersing to that.
We should be cheersing to that. So cheers to that too. I'm going to take a drink.
I know. If our politicians talked more about wine, I think the world would be a much happier place.
Oh my God. But probably they wouldn't know what they're talking about, just like everything else. So there's that. They'd be bought out.
Right, that is right.
They'd be bought out. But I'll tell you what, who did talk a lot about wine, who did a lot for the wine world, is Thomas Jefferson. So this is going to lead into our factoid session. And so we thought it would be appropriate to promulgate some fun facts about old TJ.
Yeah, TJ.
This time, this very week, 230 years ago, the week of April 16th, which is our podcastiversary, 1787, he was actually crossing from the French Alps on his way into Turin via donkeys in a wagon, as
donkeys?
They were donkeys in a wagon, because they're going over the Alps. But he hung out in Italy throughout the month of April, and then he headed back to France in early May via Ventimiglia, if you've been there, that goes through like Nice and that French Riviera area through, such a beautiful train ride, I know. But he actually started his little wine tour. He was in France for 3 years, but he started his wine tour in like February of that year, and I think he finished up in like June. So, reading about his trip around France and then into Italy and then back into France, and then around the 1st of May, he was in Ventimiglia, I believe, and then he went up to Bordeaux. So he went up through the Gaillac, south of France area, through the Languedoc-Roussillon, through the, Frontignan, which is another wine that he loved, and then up into Bordeaux. And he mostly drank, what we do know he drank, as far as factoids go, Madeira.
Which is one of my favorites.
I know. And Malmsey, of course, was very popular. That's that sweeter of the 4 Madeira styles. Malmsey tends to be the sweetest. That's the one made with the Malvasia grape. That's the one that's got the nice dark, can age for like years and years and years. Dark brown, sweet goodness. Yeah.
Yummy.
I know. And he drank a lot of first growth Bordeaux, a lot of Chateau Margaux. He drank a lot of Claret as well, the light red Bordeaux style wines.
Back when Chateau Margaux was affordable.
Yeah, and it wasn't a first growth yet.
Right.
Because remember, the 1855 classification thing, that hadn't happened yet. We're still in the 1700s here. So I also read that he kept a lot of Portuguese table wines on hand, which that's something that you don't see a lot of today. But he was able to get a lot of these things, because they were trying to subvert the British tax thing, so he was definitely a proponent of lower taxes and not taxing wine as much. And of course, Frontignan, which is a muscat style. wine as well. We do know that he did tend to water down his wine occasionally, especially if they were doing like cross-country trips or whatever, especially for the kids. Not so much for guests, but he did tend to add water to his wine at some points during his life. But he also loved Burgundy. He was known to purchase quite a bit of it, and he loved his Merceau, but he loved his Montrachet too. So I know I had one down there, and I was like, "Oh, I should get it out." No, I'm not gonna do it. But he bought a lot. The dude would order wine by like not just a case, like 10, 12 cases at a time, because all this stuff was being shipped over by ship.
That's why he's like a wine hero.
He is. He is a wine hero, says the wine heroine. Absolutely. Chateau d'Yquem. He was buying that stuff 10, 12. He was buying it for George Washington. He was like a wine supplier. I mean, he was just sending wine by the cask over, like big barrels of it. And he was a huge foodie.
He was maybe more of a wine steward than a politician, by the way that we're making him sound, which is okay for me.
It's totally okay for me too. I mean, he did have a lot of like dinners and great meals. I mean, he was known to have 32-course meals. Can you imagine?
That's like really stamina.
And when he was alone, he would have 8-course meals.
Well, why not? I
know.
mean, hey.
I know. I can't even imagine unless they're just little bites, like you're going to El Bulli or something like that,
Yeah.
But another thing I read is that Arak was knocked back quite heavily back then. And I found this very surprising because a lot of us don't know what it is. You've mentioned Arak before that you had in Turkey, the anise-flavored one.
Yeah, and I've had it at this one Mediterranean place here in town, and that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah,
is the same
anise,
one.
The anise one.
The anise one.
Well, this one is spelled, the one you're talking about is usually spelled A-R-A-K. This one is spelled A-R-R-A-C-K. It can also be spelled A-R-A-K, which will be nice and confusing for you, go figure. But this one is made with everything from coconuts to dates, and in some countries they make a bubblegum flavored version of this. I think it's in the Philippines. I know, I can't even imagine. But it's not clear where our founding fathers were scoring their Arak hooch, but it was most likely the East Indies. Because that's where they were getting their rum. And it was almost, they kind of market it like as a kind of a rum-based alcohol. So they were drinking quite a bit of that. Okay. And, of course, we also know that he contributed to wine culture in very many ways. Not only was bringing French wines, he was bringing Italian wines over. In fact, he had a joint venture with Matze.
Really?
So, if you know the Fonterutoli. In fact, I've been there, which is really crazy. But his neighbor was of the Matze family. So they planted vines, next to each other. I don't think they ever got together and made wines at Monticello at that time. But he was such an advocate of wine knowledge. He wrote about it. He fought taxes on imported wines. In fact, he was so against people turning to whiskey because they couldn't afford wine, heaven forbid.
It's so funny.
And
especially with the popularity of whiskey right now.
I know, because we love whiskey, but this is where that quote, "No nation is drunken where wine is cheap, and none sober where the dearness of wine substitutes ardent spirits as the common beverage. It is, in truth, the only antidote to the bane of whiskey."
Oh, what would he think about the 125 cocktail?
I don't know.
He would love it and hate it at the same time.
I know, right? I know, it's crazy. It's crazy, but that's where that quote came from. It's because he was trying to fight these taxes on wine. He goes, well, God, if people can't drink wine, then they're going to turn to whiskey, and
Right. Then you're doomed.
Yeah. Well, back then it wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't all that, because that's why. Remember, we spell our whiskey with an EY. Because the Irish wanted to distinguish what was coming out of their country with, the crap that, they thought was coming from across the pond. So it's also interesting to note that another one of his favorite quotes was, "I think it's a great error to consider a heavy tax on wines as a tax on luxury. On the contrary, it is a tax on the health of our citizens," because he truly believed that wine was medicinal.
Well, and they did back then, but it also really was just part of your meal.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the whole point of that whole. I mean, what he learned in the European culture when he was doing his big trek, and the wine tour that he did. It's like that's just part of, what you're supposed to be eating. It's a food group, or a grocery item,
Absolutely. And there's so much more information out there, guys, because after his wine and other writings were destroyed in a fire, I want to say he was about 27 when this happened, but he started keeping backup copies of his writing. And this is why we know more about him than all of our other founding fathers, because we have backup copies of his writings. And you can find stuff in his own handwriting to this day. So if you read the book Thomas Jefferson on Wine, it talks about this and the wine habits of our founding fathers and his journey around France. And it was because of that fire that there is so much more information on him. But we'll link up the Williamsburg Society's tome on the drinking and dining antics of Jefferson's time. It's called Colonial Virginians at Play. And then we'll have some also recommendations in our blog for further reading. There's an article that Jane Anson wrote for Decanter about Thomas Jefferson and his time in Bordeaux, so she can go into more detail about that. There's some books to recommend, including this Oz Clarke book on Bordeaux. So we'll link all of those up for you guys. I had no idea how interesting Thomas Jefferson's love for wine was until I read Thomas Jefferson on Wine. I swear, it's just like, oh my God, for somebody that hated American history so much to read this book and go, wow, that's actually interesting. There you go.
Well, I think once it connects with wine and travel, it becomes a lot more interesting. But I think you did such a great job, like distilling down. You like take in all of this information about Thomas Jefferson and then have this way of like really making it digestible and fun, Val. That was so good. I really like what you did with Thomas, Mr. Birthday Man today. I know it's timeless. It really, I think there's going to be great stories, good reads. Summer reads are winter, by the fire, drinking some Madeira. This is a great time to learn more about Thomas Jefferson and then to open something, whether it's Bordeaux or Burgundy or even a Portuguese table wine and, tell your family or your friends like, hey, this is what I learned about TJ.
I know. And apparently there's a documentary out there, and I haven't gotten to see that yet either. Ooh. But yeah, there's so much more information. That's just like scratching the surface. But what a cool way to celebrate our podcastiversary by diving deep into some history and find that a lot of the wineries he drank back then are still around today.
Yeah, that's what's most impressive. Hundreds of years ago.
I know. So I think that's great. It shows that wine, doesn't... it has changed over the time. We've talked about how champagne was a different wine. He didn't like bubbly, by the way. He was not a fan of sparkling wine. I know. He liked the dry champagne wines, which we've talked about before. But it just busts your world wide open to hear these stories.
Yeah, I think it's cool. And you know what else is cool? We have a Patreon winner to tell everybody about. So Val has got her little bag of tricks over there. Is this time in a spit bucket, or what do you got? It
is my trusty spit bucket once again.
Okay,
absolutely.
Good.
And our drawing, Aswani.
Has
Aswani not won yet?
No.
Well, Aswani won today.
Yes, Aswani, we are shipping you a bottle of Albarello Luxury Hand Soap.
Yay!
Yay! Cheers to you. And yes, thank you for being a Patreon supporter and participating, funding, and doing all the fun stuff that you do to be a part of our show. And mostly, we just appreciate all of these Patreons supporting us and keeping our show going.
Yeah, and she's the one with the really cool Instagram account. So when I am on Instagram and I see what she like I said, she takes beautiful food pictures, and like when I take pictures of food, it's just a hot mess. Like nobody wants to eat that, Val. Even though it looks good in my eye, it doesn't look good in my phone. But everything she posts out there is so pretty, and so yeah, definitely follow her on Instagram too. So congratulations.
Don't you like how she's on our? There was that beautiful picture of her on our Facebook. And so every time I'm going on our Facebook page, I scroll past Aswani, and I'm just like, it like makes me smile.
Oh, so. Yeah. She's just definitely got the video content is awesome. So congratulations, and thank you all for supporting our show, and we're going to move on to Wino Radar.
Yeah, tell us about your Wino Radar.
So I found this new podcast. It's by Ollie Smith and Master of Wine Richard Hemming, and it's called A Glass Whiff. Guess what it's about? Guess.
Having a glass of wine.
A glass whiff. It's only been out a couple weeks. I think they're on episode 3 like right now, but they're drinking with the stars. I mean, like Pink.
Yeah, that's cool.
And here's what else is cool. Pink not only owns a vineyard, it's kind of a secret thing that she did, a vineyard. She's taken WSET classes.
I had no idea.
She's like, yeah, if you read her quote, there's an article that they did about this, and she was like, yeah, she goes, I'd get off, I'd finish a show, and it's like, oh, I got a test. It's
really?
Test. Yeah. I mean,
she was serious about it.
She's that serious about it. She's like, hey, I'm going to learn. She goes, there's nothing better than like being out in the vineyard and you're snipping and it's really meditation. She goes, and I got a whole team of women, which is like myself and another woman. And so I love Pink even more now because one, Pink is like my jam. I mean, I don't know if you saw my ring is pink. I'm all about the pink. Love her music. And she's out there seeking wine education, and she's just into that vineyard thing, and I think that's really cool. So both Ollie and Richard, they're very accomplished, award-winning wine media personalities. Then they put this together? I'm like,
it's good. I listened to episode 3 and totally loved it.
Oh my God, they are just awesome. And then of course you get that British accent thing going for them, which I love. I mean, a crap ton of wine knowledge and experience between them. And of course I've been stalking Richard Hemming for a while because he writes for Jancis Robinson, and I remember when he first became a Master of Wine in 2015 and kind of moved on. So these guys have infectious personalities. I definitely recommend A Glass With. It's on iTunes. It's wherever you get your podcasts. I've shared it on my Facebook page as well, and I tweet it, and they're awesome. So that's what's on my Wino Radar stuff. What about yours?
Well, World Malbec Day is April 17th, so that is right after our podcastiversary officially. And
you know what else it is?
What? What else?
It's Haiku Poetry Day. I have a World Day, like International Calendar Day thing in front of me. Somebody gave me at the Women of the Vines. It's from Proforma, from Liz Anderson here. And it's actually Haiku Poetry Day. So maybe a haiku about Malbec.
Oh my God, I love it.
Sorry.
Good.
I just thought you'd be interested in that. So yeah.
I am. And there's a day for everything.
I
But
know.
this is your excuse, everybody. This is your excuse to try a new Malbec. Maybe one from Argentina, maybe from somewhere else. Let us know which producer you're drinking, from which country. Share your photos with us. And we do have a link, there will be in the show notes, with a 4-minute video that's kind of the down and dirty on Malbec, and specifically really those from Argentina, because World Malbec Day was created by Wines of Argentina in 2011. So it's been going on for a few years now, and this is to celebrate their country's wines, and this is officially when they really made Malbec their ambassador. So yeah, find an excuse, drink some Malbec. It could be a rosé of Malbec,
Oh, yeah.
See?
Yeah.
Have I tempted you? Yes.
Yes.
Everyday drinking, see? It's Monday, April 17th, World Malbec Day.
I think Malbec's a good everyday drinking wine anyway.
It is.
It's really good. But what about shout-outs?
Shout-outs. Okay. Applause. Seriously, everybody. The artists creating, and I mean artists, that create these spirits and the wine that we use to make this signature Wine25 cocktail. I have to give some shout-outs and some love to these people. The Withers Winery, they are Sonoma Coast, Sierra Foothills, okay? So they've got a good representation out there of cool climate wines. And the beautiful wine label, oh my God, the drawing of the horse, it's almost like the sketch, but it's eye-catching but intimate, like almost like the horse knows you and you know the horse. I don't know, it's kind of cool. And I loved it immediately when I saw it. Yeah, like it's just crazy. And I've gotten so many cool comments from friends or on Facebook, or people saying, I love the horse. I just want to buy the wine because of the horse. But what I immediately thought when I saw it was Derby time. Okay, so everybody knows Kentucky Derby is right around the corner. It's May 6th, Saturday. It's always the first Saturday in May. This is a big deal for me because I love fancy hats. And if you didn't know that, I feel kind of like I'm confessing, but I love fancy hats. I do have quite a hat collection and a milliner that lives here in town who's like on call for me. But anyhow, so but I ordered 3 bottles of the Withers because I wanted to see really kind of a good representation of what their wines would be like, because I would like to use them as Derby wines going forward for Derby parties or gifts. And any horse lovers out there, because I'm telling you guys, the horse on the label is just super cool. So I got their rosé, the English Hill Pinot Noir, and a bottle of the GSM blend that's called Bel Canto. And all of them were seriously outstanding. They were stars, beautiful wines. And it was so easy to order online, and I will be ordering some more. But the cool part is the Pinot Noir that is in my signature cocktail. Now, you don't have to use this Pinot Noir, but this is the one I used to make the Wine 25 cocktail, is the one from the Withers. So, nice job. Nice job. Okay, moving forward now.
Wait, what's the pricing on those generally? Are we mid-priced?
They're kind of mid-price. So I think the rosé is around 25, I think. The Pinot Noir was the most expensive. I think that was around 44. And the Bel Canto, which I thought was outstanding, by the way. And GSM being Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre, that was, I think, around $35.
Okay.
So we'll have a link in the show notes. You can check out the prices and stuff like that. So, these aren't everyday inexpensive wines. So these are nice wines, definitely like if you're doing a special Derby event. But the rosé was out. They have a magnum of the rosé. I swear I'm going to get that.
What's their rosé made with? Do you know?
Oh, I don't remember.
Okay, no worries. I'm sure people can look online. I was just curious because I find a rosé so interesting with the different wines. It can probably a GSM.
Oh, I think it may have been. I can't remember, but I did have it on my patio with my friends, the Adams, and they know wine, and they loved it. It was, yes, very nice. So moving on, I do want to give a shout out to Maker's Mark Distillery. It is the whiskey we used in the signature cocktail. And not just because it's my Justin's favorite bourbon, but because I want to give a shout out to all the ladies that work at Maker's Mark Distillery, and a special shout out to Victoria McRae Samuels. She is not only on the advisory board of Women of the Vine and Spirits, but, quote, has nearly 3 decades experience in the bourbon industry and holds the unique distinction of being the first woman VP of operations at a bourbon distillery. So I think that's really impressive. And at Maker's Mark, she oversees every aspect of production, from the selection of grains, fermentation and distillation, to barrel warehousing, bottling and shipping, quality control, and tasting. What does she not do? I don't know. She's amazing.
And I think Maker's Mark, if I remember correctly, that has a higher percentage of wheat in it, because there was a story about bread, and I can't remember the distiller.
Did you go visit the distillery when you were out there?
I don't think we visited Maker's Mark.
Yeah.
I don't think we did. I can't remember now. I obviously don't. I don't remember, so I don't think we did. But yeah. I want to say that they have a higher percentage of wheat, which gives that soft, really soft smoothness to it. Because there was a story way back of a distiller who found that it was the bread that was being baked in the wheat that he threw out the original recipe and then said wheat from now on, and that's what gives it its real soft.
It does have a softness. I think that's why it's, a favorite for a lot of people, and it does make a great, you can sip it for sure, but it does make nice cocktails too, and doesn't intrude on the other flavors.
Yeah. Now, of course, bourbon has to be 51% corn. We all know that, but I want to say there's a lot of wheat.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, And finally, the other spirit that is in the Wine 25 cocktail is the Leopold Brothers. And one of the reasons why I wanted to include this in our cocktail is because it is family owned and operated in Denver, Colorado. So there's that. And, Val and I kind of have a halfway point between where she lives and where I live. And Denver is that midway point. So how perfect for our Wine 25 cocktail. And as I had said earlier, the aperitivo is so good. I mean, there is some similarities to Campari or Aperol, but I really like that it's its own thing. And I can have it on ice on the patio and just, sip and enjoy. And one more thing that's cool about it, because you're probably like, I've never seen it. How am I going to find it? Is this too obscure? But on their website, which we have a link in the show notes, they do have a list of all the states and countries where you can find retailers, and, of course, K&L. And so many other online retailers also have Leopold Brothers. So you can check out if it's available near you, and otherwise ask your retailer if they can bring it in for you. So,
and also check out, they've got like different flavored like whiskeys and things like cherry and
like absinthe and stuff too.
The absinthe, we like their absinthe actually. And
right.
But they have so many cool spirits to try, so I definitely would check them out, guys, and maybe create a cocktail and send it in and show us what you're making out there. So, yeah. So what else you can do? You can jump on the Patreon bandwagon. You hear us talk about it a lot because that's what keeps, first of all, a lot of commercials out of our show, and it also helps support our show as well. So it's kind of like a value for value model, as we like to say in the world of podcasting. So we thank you so much to our Patreon supporters, because you guys, you definitely help our show get better. So we're sending out that Patreon love today to the tenacious tasters, such as Jeff E. from the hilarious drinking show We Like Drinking, Lynn G. from Savor the Harvest, who is actually at Women of the Vine and Spirits, the Europe thing this week.
In Vinitaly?
Vinitaly, yes, she's there right now.
Sweet.
They're kicking off the Women of the Vine European chapter, and she's there for that. Tenacious Taster, Sebastian Sassy of Sassy Italy tours, and you're going to hear more from him later on in this year. And of course, our It's Not 5 O'Clock and We Don't Care listeners, Meg in South Dakota, Clay in Arizona, John in California, Andrew in Illinois, or somewhere on the, where the hell is he right now?
Danube, somewhere on a river wine cruise.
Yep, and Azwani in California, also our Patreon winners. So that's one of the perks that you can get for being a Patreon supporter. You get also early releases of all episodes and exclusive content. And we've got some more of that exclusive content coming up for you in the next couple weeks as well. We also draw our monthly winner for Albarella Luxury Hand Soap, and perhaps maybe some other things starting in the next month, which is also cool. And that's at the $2 Tastemaker listener level and higher. So if you go to our Patreon page for details, that is www.patreon.com/wine, TWOFIVE podcast. And you can check out our new t-shirts.
Yeah, love my t-shirt.
T-shirts. I know. For as low as $20. T-shirts.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
See how you can support the Wine to Five show and sport some Wine to Five swag.
Sweet.
I know.
And we want to say thank you, everybody, for listening and supporting our show by just, participating online and with us. So you can subscribe to our show. You can link it. You can tweet it or Facebook it. We'd love it if you would grab someone else's phone and help them subscribe and push play. Get them listening right away.
Word.
So, word. You can also leave us a burning wine question or a comment on SpeakPipe. And we've included those and made a whole episode about that before. So please do that. And how about those iTunes reviews or iHeartRadio reviews? Well, we love those too, especially because it really does help people find us easier. So we like that. Also, there's more because we have a store. I think you guys have heard about this before. And you can score wine books and accessories for sure. It is all on our website. Really, you guys, all the linky links, everything fun. And beyond the fun that you're having through your ears, everything else is on our website, the store, links, and you can also find us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube, Google+. You can connect with Miss Val on Twitter at WineGalUnboxed, and as Vino with Val on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. Pinterest. I need to get better about being on Pinterest. Like, we're got to put the Wine25 cocktail on Pinterest.
Yeah, I do too. It's like once in a while I'll like have social media day, and I'm like, oh, I'll put stuff on Pinterest and Google Plus, because I'm there too. And it's like, and then I like go 5 weeks, and it's like, okay, I got to put some stuff on it. But yeah.
I know, me too. I need to have like a reminder or something. So I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest as the Wine Heroine, and you can also connect with me personally on Facebook. So until there is another birthday, we're kidding, because that's next year. But until next week, cheers. Cheers, Val.
Thank you for listening to the Wine25 podcast. Be sure to check us out at Facebook/WineTWO5 and tune in next week for more fun and useful sip tips.
Yeah, we're clinking with practically empty glasses here. Cheers, hon.
Oh my God, I have a little dribble.
Cheers.